So I've been following Maxime Bernier for a little while now because, I noticed a while ago on Twitter he was saying stuff about like free markets, and he actually sounded to me like more of an American libertarian. It's very rare for me to see any Canadian politician speak like he did about the economy and economics, and that is what originally attracted me to him. But then he came out against supply management as well, and he was like literally like the only politician to do that. Everybody else came out and stood behind Andrew Scheer, and this shows me that this guy actually has principles. He actually believes in what he says, right? And he actually understands economics, he understands incentives, and he can see the path that Canada is going on right now. And all of the other conservatives are too pussy, they're too big of a bitch to say anything about it because they don't want to compromise their votes in the future. But the more they're silent, the more power they're just giving Trudeau, trying to play his game and trying to play the politically correct game is not going to work for conservatives, especially when they have the media on their side, because they're going to be able to take whatever you say, even if it's not racist, and spin it and say that, oh, he actually meant it racistly, and this, they do that all the time. So don't try to play their game. What conservatives need to do is be honest. Be honest with the problems that are happening. Be honest with the problems of mass immigration. Be honest with the problem with our border, letting in a bunch of refugees, and the fact that putting a bunch of cultures together, especially at this speed, is not good, and it's going to create chaos. And the other day he had a tweet recently, and he was talking about Trudeau and his constant diversity comments, where he's like, diversity is our strength, diversity is our strength, which makes no sense if you actually analyze it and break it down. But I'll read you the tweets on Twitter, and I recommend you follow him on Twitter, retweet his stuff. This guy needs to get more coverage, and a lot of people are attacking him right now because of these tweets, because a lot of them got a lot of positive responses and a lot of retweets, especially for a Canadian politician. It was in the thousands of likes, like 4,000, and then a couple thousand retweets for a lot of his tweets concerning that. So for Canada, that is actually a good sign, because if you think about the proportion of people, Canadians on Twitter, and then the people who you can kind of extrapolate these numbers, and it's actually a large amount of people who agree with Maxime Bernier. This is why there's 100 articles out about him, about how he's horrible for calling out diversity and blah blah blah, and he's a hypocrite, and how he doesn't like immigration even though he's a libertarian. And I really hate that with people, like, well, you're a libertarian, so you should love open borders. Yes, but any libertarian that has a brain is going to be like, oh wait, but we have welfare, we have all these other government programs that you have no intention of getting rid of. So no, having an open border is not a good idea. So, a lot of libertarians you will compromise, we'll be like, okay, but how can we just reduce the government as much as possible and get it out of people's lives, right? And this is what Maxime Bernier is going to do. And him being against illegal immigration, it does not mean he's inconsistent with his beliefs. It's just like, in reality, sometimes you got to modify what you believe in the time to get something that is at least 80% of what you want. You'd rather have 80% of what you want than none of what you want. So, you in life, you need to make compromises, and you need to understand that it's not the playing field that they say that we're playing on. People are like, well, we are in a free market, we are in this. Like, no, we're not. Like, the world has never had true free markets or anything like that. So, a lot of like I said, the field that they say that they're trying to put us on and try to say this is how reality really is and all, it's often bullshit, and it's just trying to manipulate you to make you second guess yourself and then go with them, right? But I'll read you the tweets. This was from August 12th. He's like, Trudeau keeps pushing his diversity is our strength slogan. Yes, Canada is a huge and diverse country. This diversity is part of us and should be celebrated, but where do we draw the line? Diversity is what makes Canada strong. Trudeau, like that was a quote from Trudeau. And like this is true, right? Like Canada is a diverse country in its foundation, right? But diversity means different to different people, right? And it's like we were diverse. Yes, there was French, English, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, and Aboriginals that were able to come together and live in Canada. But that took a long time. Just recently, the French and English have finally gotten over a lot of their shit, but there's still tensions to this day. There's still tensions with white people and Aboriginal to this day. And yes, the cultures that were English, like the Irish, Scottish, English, whatever, they came together quicker. And then the people that were French, it took them a little bit longer, but now they kind of came into the pot. But people who share, a somewhat common history, from Europe and stuff, it's going to be easier for them to integrate together. So yes, it is diverse, but it's diversely European, right? That's pretty much how it started. So, and like I said, they all had similar beliefs. A lot of them believe they're Christians. They have similar, ethics. And these things, we can meld these things together because they all believe in similar things. But if you bring in a bunch of Muslims that believe in Sharia law and other people believe in these other rules of ethics, then these are eventually going to clash, especially when the populations start to get closer and more equal to each other. But he goes on, he's like, ethnic, religious, linguistic, sexual, and other minorities were unjustly repressed in the past, like they were. We've done a lot to redress those injustices and give everyone equal rights. Canada is today one of the countries where people have the most freedom to express their identity. And, this probably pissed off a lot of people because when we tout how good of a country we are and how, we have overcome a lot of things and now people do have equal opportunity and stuff, people are like, no! The world is still run by white supremacy. We need to keep funding. We need to keep attacking this. We need to keep funding all of these things because it's still a massive problem. Because when this problem goes away, then a lot of jobs, a lot of money that is tied in to this whole thing goes away too. So they don't want people, they don't want, what do you call it? Like oppression or whatever to stop, or the perception of oppression. It's amazing how people are convinced today that they are like victims and this and that, considering if they just had a little bit of perspective and thought, 100 years back in time, how people really lived and what other people were going through a couple hundred years earlier. It's like, man, we got it fucking good. The poor people in Canada compared to the poor people a couple hundred years ago have it fucking great, okay? But why should we promote ever more diversity? If anything and everything is Canadian, does being Canadian mean something? That's so true. If everything and anything is Canadian, all immigrants are more Canadian than Canadians, like Trudeau has said, then what the fuck is Canadian? What does it mean? I said this in another video about, French people and, whether somebody from Africa can be French. But it's like, French, these things, they have certain meanings. They mean something. Canadian means something, right? Canadian values means something. It's not just, us paddling a boat with a fucking checkered shirt on and us, eating poutine. No, that's not our culture. They're going to try to simplify it to that as much as they can so they can be like, oh, this is your culture? You don't really have a culture anyway, so why do you care if it's replaced? But shouldn't we emphasize our cultural traditions, what we have built and have in common, what makes us different from other cultures and societies? Pretty much like what? Free speech. And what have we, lost in a lot of Western countries, or what is under attack the most since mass immigration? It's freedom of speech. That is the first thing that is being attacked, because, anybody who is speaking up against it, who wants to stop it, they want to shut them down. They want to say it's hate speech. Anybody who's saying, well, I don't really know about all this immigration, hate speech, put them in jail, shut them down, censor their accounts, censor their social media, everything, But, he goes on, having people live among us who reject basic Western values. That probably triggered leftists saying Western values, because whenever they hear Western values, if you say our Western values to a leftist, I'm telling you, it like triggers something in their mind to make them like, oh, you're a bigot, you're a racist. Anybody who says Western values nowadays is a racist, bigot, and he's dog whistling to the alt-right. Like, this is literally what a lot of people believe. Western values such as freedom, equality, tolerance, and openness doesn't make us strong. People, so he said, people who reject those values don't make us strong, which they don't. A lot of Islam and stuff, Islamic people in different cultures, they don't believe in freedom of speech. They don't have, if they did, they would have it in their countries. Do they? No. That means they don't like it. And the ones who do come here, and who come here through, sane immigration policy, where we're not mass immigrating people so they don't even have time to assimilate. A lot of people, if we're more selective about the immigration, even if they do come from certain countries, Muslim countries or whatever, a lot of those people are trying to escape that shit to, live in a country with freedom of speech. So those people are more prone to stand behind freedom of speech and fight for it because they know how valuable it is. But mass importing people, in bringing in tons of refugees, making them citizens, that's not the way to do it, right? You're not bringing in the best people at all. You're bringing in just the ragtag people who are not going to assimilate, not going to learn our language, and who are just going to vie. And once they have voting power, they're going to vote for the government to give them more shit. And this is the problem with statism and stuff, is that, as long as we do have a massive state like we do, this problem is always going to exist. Like, even if we don't import a bunch of different cultures and stuff, even if we don't do that, there will always still be groups vying for the power of the state to implement what they think is right on other people. So the best way that we can reduce this is we have to either get rid of it or make it so fucking small that people, they don't want control of it. Make it so the government duties aren't that great to do. I don't know, but it's people. The problem is, bringing in a bunch of, but if you do bring in a bunch of different cultures that are completely different, then it's even worse, because at least if somebody in a culture that is similar to yours, or people that grew up in your own country, whatever, they take over, okay, it's going to be different, but it's just going to be a little different. But some Muslims take over and then implement Sharia law, that's going to be really fucking different for people. People are not going to know how to handle that shit. So, let's not wait until this becomes a problem. You got to nip the problem in the bud before it, expands or whatever, and fucks everything else up. But whatever. But he keeps going on. Trudeau's extreme multiculturalism and cult of diversity will divide us into little tribes that have less and less in common, apart from their dependence on government in Ottawa. So see, he perfectly understands it. These tribes become politically clienteles to be bought with taxpayer money and special privileges, which is exactly what is happening right now. This is all, look at Trudeau's policy. Like, look at the amount of money he gives to people. He only gives money to immigrants and women. that's pretty much it, and Aboriginals. That's it. That he's paying them off, he's buying them off to vote for him. And this is we already have this, right? So let's not turn it up a notch and then make it so the other alternatives are even fucking worse, because we do not want them eventually becoming a majority in our country. And they don't even need to be a majority to have a lot of control and influence. It doesn't take 50% of a group to take over a country and start changing it and start changing their laws. It takes a lot less than you think. So, he goes on, cultural balkanization brings distrust, social conflict, and potentially violence, which it does. We've seen this in history over and over again, as we are seeing everywhere. It's time we reverse this trend before the situation gets worse. More diversity will be our strength, will not be our strength. It will destroy what has made us such a great country, which is 100% true, right? It just boggles my mind that some people think like, oh, if we get a bunch of different opinions in a room, right? Or people who want not even different opinions. It's like people who want to just literally implement their ideology in the government. If you get all these people trying to vie for control of something, how is that our strength? We're just going to be fighting each other, and that's never going to end until, like I said, the government is severely reduced or completely removed, because as long as it's there, people are drawn to power. They will always want it, and they will always go for it, and there'll always be some group convincing some huge block of people that they're oppressed, that they're this, that they're that, and they need to vote for them because they're going to implement some shit. Because even if we turn back a lot of shit, it's just going to take a matter of time before like I said, somebody comes along and they're like, well, vote for me, I'm going to give women more of this and more time for pregnancy, and then free birth control for life and whatever, and they'll just keep voting for them, and slowly but surely they'll start chipping away at your system until there's nothing left, which is what is happening now, what is going to continue to happen until we start getting people like Maxime Bernier in office to start reducing the state, reducing the amount of power that people have the ability to attain. That is the problem. But anytime people get into that position, they just, maybe they're drunk with power once they get in. Maybe they wanted to make changes, but, power ultimately corrupts. And that doesn't mean also that people who do get in office will always be corrupted, right? Like, there are some people, like if you ever heard like Marcus Aurelius, he was like a stoic, and I think he was a Roman king, and the way that he doled out power, the way that he understood the amount of power he had so much restraint compared to the average person. Some people are going to be like, once they get that power, they're going to be insane. They're going to be drunk with it. They're going to go crazy. But other people, they can handle a certain amount of it. And I think somebody like Maxime Bernier can handle it and can reduce it, because he understands the problems with the government. He understands that this constant intervention into the economy, the social engineering is never going to lead to anything good. We need to get out of each other's way as much as possible. That really is the only solution to a lot of our problems. It comes down to freedom, right? As simple as it is. Like, people just need the freedom to make mistakes. They need the freedom to, say or do whatever they want, and not do whatever they want, right? As long as you're not hurting people and stuff, you can still have rules. This is another thing. I think people think without a government, we're just going to have no laws and no enforcement of anything. It's like, that's not how it would necessarily happen, right? You can still have laws. You still live in communities. You still set certain practices that people follow. Like, you can still have order without the government, or with a very small government. And so I'm willing to compromise on that whole government thing and be like, okay, well, we can have a little bit of it, and all they do is pretty much make sure that they focus on resolving disputes, like contract disputes, enforcing people's rights, and enforcing the border. I wouldn't be that pissed off with that, but ultimately I still think that would eventually be corrupted. It would just, somebody would get in there, and then they would just expand it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and somebody else would get in there. They would leave all the expansions, and they'll be like, well, okay, well, we can increase this a little bit. We got lots of money. Oh, well, we're doing so well. Look what we're so rich, and then a little bit more, a little bit more. So, ultimately, I think that a way to stop this tribalization and to stop a lot of racism, essentially prejudice, anger towards one another, is to have no government, because the government will always give money to this group. Like, look what's happening. Like, like Trudeau, he's giving a lot of money to like women and Aboriginals and shit. I'm sure that is making a lot of men more sexist and being like, fucking women getting all this shit all the time, and then other people, they see like immigrants getting like loans and this and that. It'd be like, fucking immigrants, these blah, 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 like all it does is create more hate. So if we didn't have this thing doling out money, being, well, you don't deserve it, but you deserve it. You don't deserve, well, this business deserves to thrive because, they're trying to do a green energy thing, and this business isn't doing what I like. So we'll give you money, not you money. Like, they need to get out of the government. They got to stop trying to help people, because we've seen the results of that. It doesn't help. A lot of governments will try to take credit for a lot of the poverty reduction that has happened in the world, but that is largely due to technology that was created on the free market, and that is largely due to individual geniuses that come up with inventions that help us all. A lot of our civilization is based off of like a handful, a few hundred geniuses, probably, right? Like, most of us, we're just along for the ride, and we're freeloaders on other people's great ideas that now we're living off of. But we should not throw those great ideas out the fucking window. Let's not try to reinvent the fucking wheel. We have a good system, and importing people, like Bernier says, from a bunch of different cultures who believe different things is just going to destroy that. We want freedom of speech. The people that come here to flee to our countries want these countries to be safe and have freedom and all this shit, right? So it's like, why are we going to compromise that? And it's people, they're just too afraid to be called racist. They're too afraid, and you can't be. This is a problem. Everything, there's a drawback to literally everything. So saying diversity is our strength and you can't criticize it whatsoever is bullshit. Nothing is perfect. And what his policy regarding immigration is especially not fucking perfect. And like I said, like, having different opinions and different ideas is good. People, they're trying to actually solve a problem or something, but this isn't how it happens with the government. People, they just want power, and they want power for their group, and they're gonna get power for their group any way they fucking can, through lying, cheating, stealing, whatever. And that's gonna happen, and it's just gonna create a lot of violence, bloodshed down the road that we could easily avoid right now if we just stop being politically correct and start supporting people like Maxime Bernier and Faith Goldie, because these people they have your interests in mind. They care about Canadians. They care about us. We're not, fuck this global citizen bullshit, okay? If you don't care about your family, if you don't care about your people above other people, then you're a piece of shit, in my mind. Like, if you're with your family and then your mother falls and trips and really hurts herself, and some stranger next to her falls, trips, hurts herself, just stay out and you help them instead, leave your mother behind, you're a piece of shit. And this is exactly what our government is doing to our people. They are spitting in their faces. They don't care about them. And the conservatives under Andrew Scheer and stuff are not going to be much better. They're not going to stop the mass immigration. They're going to do a few things a little differently, but that's about it. That's why people like Maxime Bernier is being attacked by both the left and the right. But this is just all the more reason to vote for him in the future, and try to get Andrew Scheer out of the fucking party, because he's a faggot. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.